Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Andrea Greiner.
And I'm Katie Corbin.
Welcome to the Dreams to Dollars podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs and professionals who are on their way to actualizing their dreams into reality.
Join us in this lighthearted and unique podcast where we talk about business, success, life, and building a deeper trust in God and the universe.
We are here to elevate the conversation and bring the magic to build your legacy.
We're excited for you to be here. Can't wait to dive in.
Hey. Hello, everyone. We are so excited tuning in to our podcast, Dreams to Dollars today. Thank you. And we want to bring this topic up. And before we dive into the topic, I want to reach out to all of our listeners and just say, say hey to wherever you are. And you might be doing the dishes, or you might be sitting in your office wondering, what the hell are you doing? You might be sitting in your office so jazzed about you're creating these new offers, or you're in your clinic, or you're in your business, and you're rocking and rolling, and you're here to just add. Katie and I are all about like adding to your business, like what and your life. Like I always include our lives are really our business too. So wherever you find yourself, driving, walking, exercising, doing the dishes, we want to just tune in and say, hey, and thanks for listening. And you're really what helps our worlds go round, because we love this reciprocity of this podcast and everywhere you are in your life and in your business and in your dream business that's coming, that may not be landed yet. So hey, everyone, and thanks for tuning into this. And our topic today is a big, fat, juicy one. And it's judgment. And what do you do? And also that judgment will exist, well, until our entire planet becomes really conscious. Like it will exist forever. And we wanted to tell our bring some funniness into this and just our own personal stories, because no matter where you are in life, you have been judged. And no matter where you are in your business, you have been judged. And what to do with all of that? Like what comes up for you, Katie? Just on like, I know we'll dive into the business and judgment, but like that judgment, it's like, and I don't even mean this as a pessimist, like it will always be there, because I think it can change. I do believe like consciousness will change, and there are ways to shift out of judgment very quickly, and also ways to just be like, I'm going to do it anyways. Katie and I are big leapers. We're big dreamers. We take big action. We take the slow and steady action. We're consistent. And no matter what, it's going to come up in your life. It's going to come up as a mother, as a business owner, as what else? Wives, as sisters, as daughters. And you could think of it as a sneaky thing. I'd usually talk to my clients of like, how do you make money using judgment? Like, how do you transmute that into, thank you, I'm going to transmute that into $5,000 in my bank account?
Yes. And judgment's so easy to do, right? And it's really easy for people to judge, or someone to judge somebody else when you're not doing the things that you want to be doing, right? So judgment usually comes up from a place of lack. It can also come from a place of envy too, as well. And usually that space is almost unconscious. So if you've ever been feeling of being even judged in your business, or judged for going after your dreams, or judged for even being overly optimistic, or quote unquote unrealistic, because you have a big vision and a big plan for your life, right? We probably all felt that, where we've been judged by somebody that is living a fairly, and it's not a superiority thing, but a fairly regular life, right? Like they maybe have a job, they don't fully understand what you're doing in your business. They can't even relate to it because they wouldn't even do it themselves. And it's really easy for people to say, "Oh, good luck with that," when they have no idea what it takes to go into the spaces that make you feel really uncomfortable. So I want to say judgment's very easy to do. It's actually easier to do than being consciously aware of our patterns, and where we start to almost not falter, but trail a little bit into going like, oh my gosh, I am judging this thing, or I'm making this assumption because I can't fully understand what that's like. Right. So it's actually easier to go into judgment. Like, oh, that must be really hard. I wouldn't want to be in that position. Or I can't imagine what that's like. Or good luck with that. Or that must be nice. Or some of these things that you may have been told in your life. Now, judgment tends to be like, oh, you can go into, oh, that's really interesting that that's their, perspective on what I'm doing, but it doesn't matter what their perspective on what you're doing is. So when we take judgment personally, right, this is so easy to do. When we take it personally, it it can affect us. And I'm sure there's a moment in your life where somebody, even maybe the person closest to you, has judged you for something they're unwilling to do, like take a leap or, take a risk or speak on stage or start a podcast or, and they say something like, "Well, good luck with that," or I hope that works out for you, like this passive aggressive nature of, like
Yeah.
they're acting like they're being, sort of encouraging, but it's really the undertone is discouragement and it has nothing to do with you. Because most of the time when people judge you, they're actually like, it's the gap between where they want to be or where they actually can't see themselves to be is the gap of ultimately judgment. Now, we could also say at a hierarchy of judgment, right? Only God can judge us, right? Like it's almost like a hierarchy, like God will be the judge. People shouldn't judge each other. And I want to say it's sort of a human nature, right? It's not really bad to judge people, right? It's not really bad to have the idea of like, oh, they're there and I'm there, and this is an observation I'm having, but it can become, I would say, like a not so great thing when we're judging people out of negativity to sort of bring them down in nature. Because sometimes it can be passive and they don't realize they're doing it. And other times people actually do mean to judge you and bring you down to their level. So I feel like judgment can be a really big topic. And I also feel like it's great we're bringing this forward, Andrea, too, as well today, because
Yeah.
it's such a heavy energy, right? The energy of judgment and what are people going to think of me actually tends to sometimes even push people like away from their dreams, right? Because what will people think of you? How are they going to judge you? And if you get too much in your head about that, then oftentimes you won't take that leap into the next step because you're caught in that space.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the few things Katie and I usually laugh about are like when people go, "Oh, well, good luck with that," or "I hope that works out for you." And you sort of like, I always look at using. I mean, I agree with Katie. Judgment really it exists, and does it always have to exist? I think it could exist less, but it's conscious. You have to make that conscious choice. And I've had many close people to me say, "Oh, well, I hope that works out for you." And it's almost like a little like stab, and it might be in the back, it might be in the side, it might be in the heart. And you're like, "Wow." But yeah, bless my dad's heart. He'll often go like, "Okay, well, I hope that works out for you." And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the funniest thing because I'm like, that doesn't feel like a stick anymore because I often know sometimes he doesn't, people close to you might not know how to encourage you.
Yes.
And I even just recently in my own partnership was like, I finally was like, oh, when I'm going to do something that I'm excited about, I don't need my partner to understand. But even if he said the words, I'm excited for you, even if I don't understand what that is, and I support you in whatever it is that lights you up,
Yes.
right? And this is good for us to know, like, because people would ask me for years, like, what would you want him to say? And I'd be like, I don't know, like something more than like either judgment or, and usually it's for in a partnership, it can be that they don't understand like what, but they don't have to understand. As women, sometimes we might, we're women here. So you're listening, you might be a man, you're like, you might be on his side. Like you might not understand and you don't need to understand, but like knowing knowing what you would prefer on the other side is really useful, you know? And if I were to, I could have that adult conversation and be like, Dad, it's okay. You don't have to understand. You can just, I know you love me and you support me in whatever I do and you want me to be happy, like our parents, right? And sometimes they literally just don't know how to express that. And same with our partners, you know, partners. And once I started having, I was like, once I realized what I would prefer somebody to stay or say, then it like shifted the whole dynamic because then I could be excited about something and bring it to the table, and the other person, when I may have first felt judgment, can say, wow, I'm excited even if I don't know exactly what that means, right? Like and for you to know like what's on the other side. The other big thing, Katie, that comes up when you're talking is not only are we receiving judgment from other people, but we often are our own biggest critics, and like the judgment of self, you know, like how much are you um judging yourself or letting those outside judgments sort of feel like a weight on you. I have, you know, Katie and I both work with clients together and independently, and that's a big thing when you step into, we help most of our clients build on social media, and that there's a vulnerability to that because your page is public, you're look, you know, you're building your following, and it's like, but what if my family judges me? Or what if so and so judges me? And it will actually be the thing that keeps you small or that keeps you kind of um maybe you're making the steps, but you're not you what is it? It's like a muscle kind of to be like I was listening to this podcast I love, and she was like, she didn't put out a book for years and years because she was scared of the judgment these specific people would do. And then she finally realized, like, the people I was most worried about judging me were the ones that judged me. And it was a
Mhm.
little bit of like, I kind of was like thinking she was going to like leave this like big inspirational like rainbow for us.
Yes.
And it was like, it's so true. And when you can kind of just be like, and I'm gonna do it anyways. It's that. It's like I'm gonna do, and it is painful when those people that you wished, like the people closest to you, and sometimes that's what happens in entrepreneurship or really any of your dreams. You know, if it was running, if it was exercising, if it was art, if it was whatever, you know, like it's hard. It's like the song "It's a Hard Knock Life" is coming in. It's like it's one of those places that's like and not to build a like boundary and barrier like I am a rock, I am an island, but like just almost an acceptance of I'm still okay because I love me and I'm going to do this thing that's really valuable to me, and I know it might hurt if these people judge me, and I'm going to do it anyways.
Yes. Yes. And it's almost like the concept of like, let them judge you and it's
Yeah.
okay. You know,
Yeah.
and that's a hard thing though, is like
Oh
actually we
yeah.
sometimes avoid the things that we need to or want to do because we are afraid of the repercussions on the other end, right? When it comes to, and the repercussions tend to just be, wow, that was really whatever. Like they can insert any opinion and then you take it to heart and it's really about them, right? This goes back to the concept, I think, where we don't let them judge you. Don't take it personally. That has to do with them because anybody that's doing what they want to do is more than likely going to be like, wow, that's amazing. And it really shows
Right.
you,
And
I was gonna say, it really
yeah, go on.
shows you, like, sometimes, like, who people, like, what their capacity is and what they have space for, because some people don't have space for inspiration in their life, and that's okay. Let
No.
them judge you if you do.
Yeah, and like what comes up is like you will, it's yeah, it's like this acceptance of like you will be judged. Like I remember when I closed my clinic down and I stepped into the online space, I was building online, but it was more essential oils. So it was I had shifted gears and I was like standing in the space of accessing your meridians and energetic healing, you know, healing from anywhere, energetic energy healing and all of that. And it was like scary to go, you know, here I am, a doctor and very educated and very smart. And not that a doctor can't believe in energy medicine, but I had to like really own my stuff. And it took some time to to well, I actually just jumped right into it, but it was almost like the under layers had to be, it took some time for that to, and I wouldn't even say harden, but build up and have strength and know that like no matter what, you will have people that see what you do and be inspired by you. And the another option is that they will see you and it will create pain for them because they're not doing what they wished and their dreams are. So you invoke a pain, which is not your intention anyways, in their own stuff because they're like, damn, you know, Andrea's doing that, like she's doing that thing and she's out there and Katie, she's out there and you know, you're out there doing it and it's inevitable. So I think sometimes it's like, what are those tools? I talk to my clients a lot about receiving judgment as if it was receiving like $5,000 in your bank account every time and welcome it in. And this is a little bit of an access consciousness tool, but like to just be like, every time my mom judges me, boop, 5K in my bank account. And I'm just like, thank you very much for that judgment. And you can't always access that, but what if you could start with one judgment a day? Because how many judgments are being flown around every single day? Not only how many times are you judging you, and then how many times are you perceiving or receiving judgment, or even judgment that you haven't maybe verbally received but you know is out there, right?
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
I share that with clients, they're just like, oh, I love that, because look at the energy of it. Is like, instead sometimes you'll stay small and you won't say that thing that you really want to say because you're scared of judgment. But what if you were like 1% more of you every day, and you said that thing, or you were that energy of possibilities, or you were that potency, and you received someone's judgment and you knew it wasn't just like Katie said, it's not about you, that's all them. And you could just lovingly say, thank you for that, you know, deposit into my energetic bank account. It
Yes.
that is like that will build a muscle.
Yeah, and it's almost I'm thinking like it's almost like taking something and making yourself better. Like, oh, like thank you for that
Yeah.
interesting
Thank you.
perspective. And you're like, on
Yeah.
with my day. I'm gonna continue to do what I'm gonna continue to do, regardless of if people are judging me or not. And I do feel like as
Yeah.
humans, we tend to not want to be judged. It feels it's a who wants to feel uncomfortable? Like if everybody felt like we're okay with being uncomfortable, everybody would be the highest success they possibly could be, right? Because discomfort and receiving a judgment from somebody is uncomfortable at the base. And it's okay. It's almost like, go ahead and judge me. It could make me feel uncomfortable. And then other times it's like, they're gonna judge me anyways. So I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing and doing what I'm doing today because it in the big scheme of things, their opinion doesn't even matter. So
Yeah.
and I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're gonna get judged. Like it's part of the process. It's normal. And when you receive that judgment where you're like, oh, I hope people don't think I'm a, and then you receive that, and then you're like, oh, that okay. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
almost like you're like, okay, like that's fine. Like, and then
I
you get
survived.
over it. You get
Yeah. You're like,
you get over it.
you think you're gonna like shrivel. So I had this like very two judgments, and I'll share them here because it's fucking hilarious. And it's like some of my business judgments are people would think that I'm like a cult leader, you know,
Right.
because I talk, you know, energetics, and a con artist. So that was my
Right.
biggest thing. You know, when you go online and you start to sell as a clinician, as a coach, it's like there is this energy around sales. That's like you have to be slimy, you have to manipulate, you have to lie, you have to do all these things. So like some of my two biggest fears, and I got that last year. Somebody very close to me said those things in a time that was very tumultuous. So it was like, and I laughed with Katie and I called my other best friend. And I was like, that's what I thought, that if I received that from someone I loved, I would have shriveled. And once I heard it, it was liberation
Yeah.
is what happened. And I
Yes.
remember telling this to Katie and being like, oh, I was laughing. I could feel it in like my heart. I could just be like, because I knew I was not that.
Yes.
And now you can actually watch all these Netflix on like the con artists and the cults and all that kind of weird shit in the coaching industry. And I was just like, I was so free because I knew deep in my soul that I was not that.
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, damn, if I could receive that, I can receive anything, like
Yes.
bring it. And then you're sort of like, bring it, girl, because like I got this. And and there was maybe a bit of like there may be places that you need to heal, like the
Yes.
wounded, any woundedness that
Yes.
then later might seep up. But at the same time, there was a huge liberation. So Katie and I are very conscious. We're aware. We know when we have shit to heal. We know we're not perfect, and we're not saying like just receive all the judgments and you'll be fine. We know there's like some work to do.
Absolutely.
It will trigger things, and that's Katie's like, I would do it. I wouldn't do the opposite. I'm not willing to not be all that I am in this lifetime.
Yes.
And if you are that as your essence, which many of us are, and many are getting there, and you're getting your business, and you're building, building that message, and it's like, would I give someone else the power over me to not show up as me because I received their judgment and I thought it was true?
Hmm.
Oh fuck no.
Yes. Yes.
you know?
Like allowing judgments to like morph you or change you. I'd rather be judged and burned at the stake than not become into fruition in this lifetime what I am meant to be because I'm
Right. Well, we
afraid.
already did that. We did that.
Right.
We've
Right.
done
Right.
we've done all
Right.
that burning at the stake, and we did all that, right? We've done all that. So it's true. It's like um yeah, so where, and also I want to just bring in this energy of acknowledgement, just like how I've shared my stories. Katie can share stories of receiving judgment and knowing and just being like, I will persevere no matter what. It's a persevering energy kind of underneath that, but also an acknowledgement. Like, where can you acknowledge yourself more for receiving judgment or stepping through it? Like I went to, well, I've done a lot of big choices, and where can you acknowledge like, wow, you were really brave, Katie, for doing that. And that will kind of also give you the strength when you can acknowledge yourself. It gives you strength to move through that judgment, if that makes sense. Because
Yes.
you can be like, wow, look at these brave will look different. That might like, I've been to Russia when I was in high school, and Africa, those and Ecuador. Those were brave choices to make as a young woman, and also even choosing medical school. Katie she went into acupuncture very young and into her own business very young, and like we all, and brave might look like marrying the man of your dreams or the woman of your dreams.
Yeah.
Each of your steps that have ultimately cultivated more of you, because when you can acknowledge, I would almost say judgment can't exist when you have gratitude for yourself, or just more gratitude. Judgment can't exist, and same with acknowledgement. That judgment, especially that self judgment, can't exist as deeply when you're like, no, 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 you don't get to come here because I acknowledge like who I am, what I've done, what I'm building in this. And we're bringing this topic up because entrepreneurship is brutal.
It
you
can
know
be. Yeah.
it can be. It's brutal and it's freaking liberating. It's like all the things on the spectrum. And this is one area that people can shy away from. And as you know, again, this podcast is Dreams to Dollars. So in your dream, it's likely you're going to face this. And what are your tools, and what are your I got another one. What are your methods to say, I will create that dream no matter what?
Yeah, and almost even just making it lighter sometimes can be super helpful, right? Like laughing, "Oh, that's a really interesting judgment of that person," instead of going like, "Wow, I received that really," and it depends on our mood sometimes too as well. Obviously, we're emotional beings. Sometimes actually I find that people that are sort of energy vampires can also come in and with judgments when you tend to be a little bit more vulnerable. You're having a bad day or something's going on in your realm, and they're exhibiting good judgment. And it's almost like I deal with a lot with like, I'm gonna just pull back and I'm not gonna engage in any of that experience at that point. So you have the choice, right? Whether or not to actually receive the judgments from others or almost let them, like bounce off from you. Like, oh, that's theirs, right? Like give it back to them almost. But it never
Yeah.
feels good. And that's why we wanted to bring this forth too as well. You will likely somewhere in your journey be faced with this, right? And
Yeah.
oftentimes it's at multiple different levels. Some can be like, oh, that was no big deal. And then others can really feel like somebody shot an arrow through your heart. And then you're sort of
Yeah.
pulling that arrow out and going like, I'm going to become stronger in this space by going through this tribulation ultimately.
Yeah.
So I feel like judgments are can be helpful too as well, like Andrea says, where you can actually liberate yourself from some of the things you're actually afraid of when you're willing to just listen to what people have to say about you, because most of it's
Yeah.
actually
And
not true, right?
so, in the topic of judgment, what Katie and I are really good at doing is, and what has helped us, both Katie and myself, like move through things and our clients as well, is providing this sense of community. Being with other dreamers that are building business, that are moving through these stages of judgments of getting that judgment, and actually they're all creating things. They're writing books, they're creating podcasts, they're adding programs to build beyond 20K months and beyond. And those places take a lot of courage, and they're also the place where many more judgments will often arise. And in a sense of building community with others that are in that same dreamers. They're dreamers. They're building their dream. They're building their business. They're doing all of that. That's really where we found our clients um, have kind of excelled beyond that realm of the judgments that can often bring us back and bring us down.
Yeah, and it's always nice, I feel like, to be around people that also can relate to that feeling of feeling judged by others that aren't doing what you're doing ultimately, right? Like it's easier to be like, "Oh yeah, I've gone through that and I've experienced that in my lifetime and it didn't feel good, but I know that it's part of the journey and I know that it's going to get me to the place that I ultimately want to be and I know that I'm just going to keep going." I do find that when people are like, they almost make it like, oh, the judges must be because I'm wrong or I'm not going in the way that everybody else is. Like it's almost like when you stand in your own truth, a lot of times you actually stand in that alone at first, and then you start to find people that are also doing that, right? Like you're also doing that. It may not be you're starting something or you've been running a business and you might even have people in your realm that are supportive, but they maybe also you can feel an air of judgment because maybe you're more successful than them, or there's sort of this competition energy or something like that too as well. So just we wanted to bring this forward because really pay attention to the spaces where you may slow down due to judgment, or you may be sort of bracing for judgment. You're not doing the thing that you want to do because you're afraid of somebody saying something that you just don't know how to handle. So it's important here to just go into those spaces and know that, it could be uncomfortable on the way in and on the way out. You could totally transform into a new person and actually go more towards your dream business.
Yeah. And as always, we are cheering you on, wishing you the greatest success and also so much fun in what you're doing and creating and building in your business.
Thank you for listening to the Dreams to Dollars podcast. If you vibe with our content and want to find out how to work with us, check out our show notes for the links.